Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone, I know you've been curious about my solar and so forth. I want to talk about it a little bit. My new batteries have been performing excellently. The lithium iron phosphate batteries. Only thing I don't like, I don't have enough capacity. That's going to be in my future plans. And I'm getting a little bit excited because I'm might get to upgrade my inverter. My present inverter is a pure off-grid inverter. It's 24 volt input and 220 volt output, and it's 3,000 watts, which supplies my entire house fairly easy. But I'm hitting about, on my load right now, around 75%. Now I like to keep my load on my inverter at 50% or less when, maximum load that is. In order to keep from the internal works, of course the bigger the load, the more heat it will generate. I have found an inverter that has a lot of features. That's what they call a hybrid inverter. It's an on-grid, off-grid inverter. And it has Wi-Fi capability. That means when I'm away from home, I can check on its status and see if everything is performing correctly. I really like that particular feature. And it's 4,200 watts. So that will put me back at where my preferred load is desirable. No. That's just me personally. No. I'm sure probably wouldn't have no issues if I am above that. I just got in my mind that it will extend the life of the unit. Other features of the new inverter that I've got my eye on is that it's capable of switching from grid to solar on its own. And if for some odd reason I lose my batteries, say something happened, my batteries not functioning, it can still function on solar panels alone, which is fantastic. And another feature it's got, say that my batteries, the BMS, they shut down because they're discharged. Well, my current inverter, I can't reactivate the BMS. So I have to use, if the grid is on, I have to use a battery charger to activate my batteries. Now that would be difficult if I had a brownout. I don't know what I'd do, to be honest with you. I guess I'd have to figure out a way to tap my solar controllers, which they won't function unless they have DC input from the batteries. So I'm stuck. If there was a major brownout and the BMS has kicked the batteries off, this new inverter will reactivate the batteries and start charging them once the sun hits the panels. Another thing too, those are my solar controllers that I have to use two of them because the amperage of my panels will exceed one of them if I just use a single controller. 1,400 watts is the max per controller. So that's another thing that's hanging on the wall that I can eliminate. And because the hybrid inverter has its own built-in controller, and it can handle up to 140 amps, which is fantastic. Right now, my maximum amperage is about, I'm trying to do the math, 80, around 85 amps, somewhere in that area. So I've got room to grow with the new inverter with extra panels and still not have to have a separate controller. I like that feature. Trying to think of what else the inverter has that I like as far as feature goes. Oh yeah, I forgot. It does have an on-grid capability of sending back my overage from the panels to the grid with a limiter. Now what the limiter means, that if for some reason there's a brownout, there's no electricity coming in, the limiter will prevent any voltage going back on the grid. That's a safety feature to keep from anybody getting electrocuted, which is a good thing. And when it comes available to this area, which I expect it to come to this area sometime in the future, I don't know how close, it does have the capability of putting it back on the grid and use the grid as a battery, you might say. Add kilowatts during the day and reuse them at night, which sounds like a pretty good idea to me. But I still need more battery backup. I'm going to have to expand that. So the hybrid inverter is the way to go, and the prices has gotten more affordable since I started my solar system. Now, let you in on a little news. I might get to do this inverter a little sooner than I had planned. I've actually sold my old lead acid batteries, and I've got roughly in US dollars about $300 out of those 6 batteries. It's just actually very cheap. But at least they're going to have a home where they're going to get used, and instead of just sitting here and going dead and dying and nobody getting no benefit out of them. So I did find them a home, which we'll put into my fund for the hybrid inverter. I'm roughly around $600 away from my goal. Now, since I have sold them, I don't know for sure. I've not made the decision yet. I may try to sell my old inverter and controllers once I save a little money up, and do without solar for a few weeks, month, whatever it takes to acquire the additional funds. I don't really like that because it would leave me hanging if there's a brownout with no backup. It's something I might take in consideration if I'm within $300 or $400 of having what I need to get the new inverter. And of course, there's going to be 2 or 3 weeks getting the inverter because I have to order it and wait on it. So that's the dilemma. And and the product is the same brand as my controllers. Now my controllers have been going strong for over 3 years. My solar controllers that controls the charge ratio to my batteries from the solar panel, and they've been performing great. Another thing too, I forgot to mention, the hybrid inverter will allow a higher voltage from the solar array, up to 500 volts, coming into it, and that's another thing. That's why I can get rid of the controllers. Now my controllers are limited to 105 volts. So you take most solar panels by themselves will produce around 40 volts in most cases. Some panels will vary depending on the brand and capacity, but that's the average that I have seen so far. So it means I can only string 2 panels at a time in parallel in order to keep the voltage under 105 volts. With the new inverter, I can string up to 500 volts, and I haven't done the math for how many it is, I guess around 10 panels, a little more. Might be able to do 12, which I believe I can. So 12 times 4 is 480 volts. So that's good. So that's what I have in mind, and just to let everybody know what my plans are and what my goal is. I might be a little closer than I expect. So, folks, I really appreciate you watching and taking time out, but I thought I'd fill you in on some of the things that will maybe help somebody that's interested in solar. Some shortcuts. The price of some of the hardware has come down considerably. You can get good equipment fairly affordable now compared to the way it was when I first started my system. Everything was very expensive. That's the reason I got stuck with the lead acid batteries. They was about half the price of the lithium iron phosphate battery. And now the lithium iron phosphate batteries are down, in some cases, less than lead acid. It depends. You just have to shop around. For the same ampere usage. What I mean by that, 100 ampere lead acid battery you can only use safely without destroying the battery is roughly 50%. That's 50 amps. Lithium batteries you can use up to 90%. Of course, they recommend 80, which that's what I'll stick with in order to get more cycle life out of it. That's another thing too. Lead acid battery depends on the brand and quality of the battery. For average, around 800 to 1500 cycles. For lithium ion batteries, they're 3000 to 6000 cycles. For good quality batteries. Give you an idea on that part. Actually, even if you pay more for the lithium ion, in the long run, it's cheaper. But you'll only work with what your budget will allow. So, folks, I really appreciate everybody, and hopefully I gave some information that will help you understand some of the things with solar and what it's capable of. And thanks again, and please stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.